Huzzah! And welcome back to another episode of As the Brazos Falls. I'm TK, and I'm here with the usual suspects, Pat and Nick. How you guys doing?
Hey, TK.
Doing fantastic.
All right, today we're going to do the second part of our two-parter of the Palace Theater, and we're lucky enough to have Mildred with us again. Hi, Mildred. How's it going?
Hi, it's going great. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm going to throw it to Nick, and we will dive back into the episode.
Yeah, so I think we left off at the reopening of the theater in 1984. So we got through the first, 60 years of the theater's history. And we are approaching our 100th anniversary. Will be coming up, I believe, in June of 2025, right, Mildred?
I think so.
Yeah. So June of 2025 will be our 100th year anniversary. So we'll just kind of go over, I guess, the last 40 years, you know,
Yeah, but I have
from
to ask,
85 to 2025.
are you all going to do something special for the 100th anniversary during that time, and we'll get together or something?
You know, we've briefly talked about it at board meetings. We haven't set anything in stone yet. But yeah, I think all of us would love to do something for that. I mean, it's a 100-year anniversary for a building that's still going. So I think we're going to do something. I just don't know what.
We just haven't started planning yet.
Yeah.
We got some
Gotta
time
get
on
through
that.
this year first.
Yeah, we got to get through this
Got a
year
little
first.
time.
But yeah, we got that 100th-year anniversary coming up, and for the last 40 years, like I briefly stated in the last episode, it's just been a lot of keeping the theater going, doing those live dinner theater performances, musical guests. We have Elvis tribute artists that come out maybe twice a year, and we always get a great crowd for those. We had a Motown music review not too long ago that had an awesome crowd to that. Fashion shows, we've had a couple of those over the course of the last few years, and some improv acts that we're probably going to get back into here pretty soon. Rob and I are actually working on this 2, maybe 3-man show. We'll have to look and see. Has anybody ever seen Mystery Science Theater 3000?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, him and I are looking at doing something along those lines, you know, with the drop-down screen and some
Fabulous.
old cheesy movie and just me and him having banter back and forth.
I could see that.
We're looking at something like that. We're looking at bringing back Casino Night, too, which was a popular one for us the couple times that we did it back in the day.
I would totally
I
be down for
vote
that.
for Casino Night.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, we're looking at that, and of course we have our paranormal acts still going. I say acts, but it's a theater. I call everything an act. But it's our paranormal universities. You know, we'll start doing it. We'll go back to doing those 2 to
Can you
3 times
explain
a
a
year.
little bit about that? Because a lot of people don't know. So, like, how does that work? They sign up, they come in, do y'all stay overnight? What is involved with all of that?
So with Paranormal University, we actually have a group of 4 investigators who come out and they donate their time to teach our students or our patrons how to use different gear in the field when you're investigating, doing a paranormal investigation. And we also talk about the ethics of paranormal investigations. You know, it's a lot different than what you see on TV shows.
Do you guys usually have hits every time, or are there times that maybe it's like just one of those days where
I would say there's not one university yet where someone has not experienced something. Like everyone has, not everyone, but somebody during each one has experienced something, whether it be one of us or a combination of us and investigators and patrons that have come. Everybody's experienced something. And in some cases, people have experienced some of the same things in different groups, which has been interesting. Usually at the end of the night, we'll do a little recap session where we'll have all the groups. So we divide groups out at the beginning, and they go through different areas of the theater with different investigators.
does that include the apartments?
That includes the buildings next door that we've annexed onto the building, the basement downstairs below the stage,
It's creepy, folks.
the balcony and the projection room.
So who were you saying was observing us from the balcony? What's his name?
His name would be Casey, and we briefly mentioned him a little bit in the first episode. He was JC's right-hand man, and it's been believed to this day that him and JC still float around and look out after the theater and take care of things here still to this day.
Well, he's definitely making himself at home on the balcony an hour ago.
That is interesting because, okay, I had a feeling about a guy in the carpenter room or in the shop. You know, I always attributed that to, like older black man energy, but maybe the color isn't really there. I just attributed it to that because that's the black entrance that used to be here, because even during segregation, the Palace Theater welcomed all. Yes, they had to have a different entrance. That was the way of life back then. And they also had the balcony where they sat.
Right.
But in my opinion, I've done work here, and when you're working on an old building, I always feel like you end up feeling some kind of energy. And I felt that in the shop, which is next to the actual stage. And then the other time was debunked by you guys. I did totally felt it, but I was in this room that has pictures all over the wall. The AC was off. I sat down for lunch, and then all these picture frames on the wall started like kind of swaying my way, and it would catch the light. And every time I looked at it, I would like see a person. And that was because there were people in the picture, duh. But I was also starting to freak myself out. I videoed it, and I showed it to these guys, and they totally debunked it. Because if you have even the slightest bit of airflow, just like this curtain's moving, I mean, that's the AC.
Right.
But it was just like, the AC was off, but even the fan was moving these, because they only took like the littlest amount. But I was for sure, I even called my best friend, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm having like an experience here. And then they debunked it. But it felt very real at the time, and probably because of the history here, I just like got in my head, you know. So I think it's cool that you guys will look at stuff like that. Like you're not like, oh yeah, that's something, because you want it to be something so bad, or you're so into it, which I think some people do that on TV, you know.
Right.
They're like taking this little bitty thing and then they're making it this huge thing because they want it. I think that it's, you guys do these paranormal universities with a lot of integrity. And I think that's really awesome. Even though I was kind of
100%.
bummed my experience was debunked.
100%, and yeah, absolutely, we will, and that's a big part of the reason why the board members are usually on hand during those universities, is because we know the facility inside and out, you know, especially Rob and I.
Yeah, we all spend so much time here.
And Mildred in some areas as well. Like, we know the facility like the back of our hand. So we can tell you, oh, no, that's just a loose floorboard on stage, or, I don't know, you might want to look at that, because I can't explain that one, you know,
I think
to
Chris
you.
was the one that, I showed him the video, and he was the one that was like, nope, and then I showed it to Rob,
Yeah.
and they both agreed, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, you know, and I think the crowds that come out for those always have a good time, you know. They always, they're gonna learn something where they're here. Either they're gonna learn about the history of the theater, they're gonna get to see and explore and tour this place, or they're going to learn how to use these scientific instruments that they never knew how to use before, and in some cases didn't know existed. They might learn something about ghost hunting, and they might learn something about themselves too. So these universities are always something fun and something good for people to come out to, and they, like I said, they've become very popular. We're up to 2 or 3 of them a year now.
What is the place in the theater that maybe has the most action? Because I do want to say, when I went to the basement to look for his luggage for a play, whew, I was really freaked out. I could not wait to get out of there. Yeah. So is there a particular place that has more action than others?
Yes and no.
Hmm.
So it depends on the person. At least that's the way I feel, and I think that's the way some of the other board members feel too. Because we'll have board members come down here and work, and will feel totally fine in the basement. Rob and I, we'll go stand in that basement all day and won't feel a damn thing.
Oh no,
You know, we'll be fine. We'll be working, moving stuff around down there, bringing stuff up, hauling stuff down. We're fine.
I'll be fine walking
Um,
down the stairs, and it's almost like as soon as I hit that ground,
Yeah.
I just get like weird feelings.
Now
and
I
just
want to
feel
go
off.
to the basement so badly.
Yeah.
Because
But-
you know I'm a big skeptic, y'all.
Oh, totally.
I'm always, you know.
But those people are good at these. I mean, I think it is good. That's what they are. They're not like I said, they're not like, oh, this happened. Oh, that curtain's moving. Like, no, they're like, it's the freaking AC on. You know, they try to debunk it until they can't, and then they're like, okay, this is real. You know, instead of just taking it for what we see right then. You know.
Yeah, but we do have people that'll go down in that basement and they just can't stay down there. They
Yeah.
can't stand down there. They can't.
It's uneasy.
They always feel weird down there. They feel unsettled down there. Rob and I have experienced the most stuff that we've experienced has always been on the stage or in the stage area,
Oh wow.
right? And I think that has a big part to do with who we are. Me and him essentially run the facility, right? From this side of it, from
Yeah.
the stage side. We're always building the set. We're always directing the plays or performing in the plays. We're always doing something with the stage in the main theater. So him and I always have the most experience here,
And you
where
all
we are
both
right
had
now.
separate experiences to
Separate experiences,
Okay.
right. I think Mildred, maybe out in the audience part of the theater where she spends a lot of time, and maybe back in the kitchen area where her and some of the others spend a lot of time on the culinary committee.
Have you
You
felt
know?
anything different over there, Mildred?
The main thing that I remember hearing, wasn't hearing, I smelt it. And that was, I was walking in the back of the theater, and I was fixing the centerpieces, and all of a sudden I smelled cigarette smoke.
Like somebody's right next to you smoking, or what?
No, I was inside the theater, they were in the lobby.
Mmm.
And I kept smelling it, and I thought it was Nick trying to play a joke or something. And I said, come on out.
And then where does Nick come from? Backstage.
Oh my gosh, wow.
No cigarette in hand.
No
Hey, I have to
cigarette
say,
in
my
hand.
Aunt Edna smells cigarette smoke sometimes at her house where my grandma used to sit. And it doesn't happen all the time. My aunt doesn't smoke, my uncle doesn't smoke, but she'll be alone sometimes or with family. And my mom has smelt it as well. So I think that is something, and I bet this was a smoking place back in the day where people could go to the lobby, have a cigarette,
Possibly so.
chill, and then come back into the theater.
Oh, during the
So-
40s and the 50s and the 60s,
Yeah, everybody
everybody
smoked.
smoked. It was
Yeah.
just,
Yeah. So we do know that. JC kept this as a non-smoking facility to the patrons, but during off hours, he and Casey would often be found smoking in his office or out in the lobby, you know, a cigarette or a cigar.
So you said office. Was his office next to the boys' bathroom?
So his office is located, it is what is now the Goddard Chatness Room.
Okay.
Yeah,
What is
was
that?
his
What
tiny
was
office.
that back in the day? You know how the men's restroom, if you're going out right here, the last door to the left, I've only been in there
That was
once.
a concession.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's where the concession stand was. It's covered up with wall now, but a long time ago there was a window there, and that's where the concessions were.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, because at the time the ticket check-in wasn't inside the door like it is now with us. It was, the ticket was outside in the
Oh.
ticket booth.
I saw you moved your mannequin. Was that for a reason, Mildred?
I'm supposed to be dressing her.
Oh, okay.
so I have to ask, why do y'all not use the ticket booth? That ticket booth is cool.
It is.
We just need to update it. It's outdated as far as being comfortable when it's warm or when it's there's no ventilation in there. There's no heat. There's
I
no
got you.
air.
There is no heat in
Yeah,
there.
it's-
So-
That wind blows in that little hole like this that's got paper on it.
You're
It's
either
like a
freezing or you're broiling
But
in that
she
little
does
glass
dress.
box.
She dresses up a mannequin and has it in there, so it looks like a lady's there to
I was cleaning up in there, and then I had to leave, and I haven't gotten back.
put her back in.
But we tried to dress her to go with the theme, and the last theme that we showed in there was she was dressed as Elvis.
Oh,
Nice.
hey.
But we had 3 Elvises here. We weekend after I redressed her.
Yeah, well, we had the Elvi in the building
And y'all have that like 3 times a year, right, where Elvises come and kind of...
2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah.
It just depends on who wants to come out and when they're available. And we try not to do them side by side and back to back too much because we don't want to burn out the audience on the same thing over and over again. So we try to spread things out.
And I know y'all have been open to other things. Like, I've heard talks of, like, oh, is the Palace Theater going to do a Battle of the Bands? Is the Palace Theater going to do this or that? And that might just be hearsay around town, but I think that would be super rad to have a little film thing here, like short films. And
That could be a
then-
lot of fun.
Oh, I know. And you could have people from surrounding, like only Texas people or something like that. And then, like, locals put in their film and they play like 2 minutes of it. There was this place in Austin, which a lot of people know, the Alamo Drafthouse, but one of the originals, which was called the Ritz, right before they closed, they had where people would come in and you could submit any clip, movie, whatever, and they would play 2 minutes of it. And if somebody from the audience didn't come up and gong it, then they would play 2 more minutes of it. But if somebody came and gonged it, they went to the next clip. And it brought out the biggest crowds, and it was just fun, you know? And if somebody gonged something that everybody else liked, they would be like, boo, you know? But it was very interactive and fun. Anyways, I do think you guys do amazing things here, and I know that y'all are continuing to, like, think of new stuff and new ways
It's such
to
a
incorporate.
great sense of community.
Yeah.
It feels very organic.
Well, they started, I mean, I wanted to ask this, did y'all start, whenever Pat started, was it the children's plays or did that come a little bit later and then it went into dinner theater? Like, was it dinner theater with the children Christmas plays? Because in that room they have every play basically on the wall. And a lot of them are like Christmas plays with kids in it. And so I didn't know if like she started back with that and then it rolled into dinner theater or...
So when they first opened it back up, it was set up as a theater. Right now, if you look out in the audience, what you see is tables and chairs. And we've done that recently, probably within the last 6 years we've done that. But when they opened it back up, it was the original theater seating, lined up original theater seating.
Not original.
Well, set up originally as theater
Yes,
seating.
yes.
So when they reopened it, that's how it was set up. And they just did regular stage plays in here. Now what they did do in the 90s is once we acquired the building next door, which was once upon a time called the Palace Cafe, and is now what we call the Annex.
And I've heard a
building,
lot
the
about...
Pavilion.
I've heard a lot about the Palace Cafe.
Yeah, and we now call it the Pavilion.
The Falls Cafe, sorry.
Right, the Palace Cafe.
Oh, it
was
was?
called the Palace Cafe.
First?
It was the Palace Cafe, yes.
Always?
Always, because it was next door to the Palace Theater.
Why did I think it was called the Falls Cafe? Huh.
Don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
but no, it was, and we verified that through dating the neon sign that's up there.
Okay.
It's the exact same style neon sign that the Palace Theater used to have.
And who was
So-
the lady that owned... There was a lady that owned that, right? Her husband was
Uh,
dead, maybe, or something?
Yes, I'll have to do a little research on her. I
Okay.
can't remember her name. There is a little more history to
We'll
to
cast
that
back
side
on
of
that.
it.
I had
Yeah.
a client that actually knew the lady and her family, apparently.
Yeah.
So,
But back in the 90s, when we acquired that building, they went into JC's office, which is the little Goddard Chapmas room, and they busted through that wall. So that door that you see in there now and that entrance, if you notice, there's a step down
yeah.
into the building because that didn't used to exist. That used to be a solid wall, and that was JC's office. I say we, but they put that door in and made it a cut through into that building. And that building used to have a small stage built at the very back of it, and the dinner tables were lined up throughout the rest
I
of the
forgot
building.
y'all did that, and
Yeah.
I cannot imagine how hectic it was.
So we did that until about the early 2000s, and then you know what we said? We can't do this anymore. Like, the audience is growing, more people are coming, we need to expand. So we took out the theater seating here in the main room, we put the tables in, we put the chairs in, and now this is where we do all our performances.
How
So
many...
is your
Right in
seating
here.
capacity higher than it was with the traditional seating format?
So with the traditional seating format, it was slightly higher, but not much. And the only reason was because at the time the balcony was open for seating as well.
Ah.
The balcony is currently closed because we have to do some renovations up there, which we do expect to get to at some point within the next few years. But right now, at capacity for a dinner theater, we max out at, I want to say, 156.
Very specific.
That is
Yeah.
very specific, Nick.
Now, how many people did y'all have next door when y'all used to do them in the smaller annex?
62.
Oh, yeah, so that's way, yeah.
Yeah.
It was like sardines in a can.
Oh, I can imagine. Even working back there and volunteering, Mildred, we're sometimes bumping into each other. Hey, we got this cart going because, I mean, y'all serve tea and water, and you used to serve wine. And y'all, I have to say, it's a great idea to have people to be what they be, because then y'all
Yeah.
don't have to worry about it. And they still do the tea, wine, or tea, water, and coffee. And then is it a 3-course meal or a 4-course meal?
3-course.
Three
It'll be
courses?
a salad or an appetizer, and then the main course, and then a dessert.
Yeah, that's very nice.
Excellent food.
And we did all the cooking, the cleanup, everything was done in that one big room.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine. It's already hard doing it in both rooms.
As the non-local in this group, I just have to throw this out there. You know what this place needs is a secret swinging bookshelf door.
Pat, you want to go into detail on what that is for our listeners who may not be...
Oh, come on. Everybody knows about the secret bookshelf door, right?
Yeah, I feel like that would be really cool on stage or
I mean,
something.
you can pull a certain book and you unlatch the bookshelf
And the
and
door
it
opens.
swings. I mean,
Yeah.
this place just screams that it needs that. It's talking to me. It wants it.
So with that said, I will say there are doors and entrances to this place that a lot of people don't see upon first looking. Mildred and I were down here doing some clean out one day, and we found a little swinging door on the side of the steps. And what did we find in there? We found some of JC's records and stuff in there, right? Just stuff that apparently had been sitting in there since maybe the 40s or the 50s.
That's so awesome. I
And,
love stuff
yeah.
like that.
Just sitting in there, and we found it, and we started digging it all out.
Part of his office,
Mhm.
once we've moved the stuff from in front of it.
Yeah.
Have y'all really dug around in all the nooks and crannies around here? Or just kind of as you come upon something?
At
it's
this
like, oh,
point, I would say we have.
Okay.
At least between Mildred, Rob, myself, and Terry
Yeah.
Glover, our board president, we have dug around everywhere.
I don't think there's a part of this that I have.
No, I mean, as of a few years ago, there were stuff that, because it was only maybe 3 or 4 years ago that Mildred and I found that. But at this point, we've dug into everything.
So since y'all have spent so much time here, I have to ask both of y'all, you know how a lot of people will do high and lows, right? Of like their day or of their whatever. And y'all have spent so much time here. What would be individually y'all's highs about the palace and your low about the palace? And maybe your low's not super low, but I'm just curious. Like, you can also throw in your spookiest time if you want.
Mildred, you want to tackle that one first?
What's your highest moment here that you think has happened?
I'm not sure that there's any. I just get excited about any time I find something new, like finding this stuff under the stairs, and possibly going out through the metal door of the shelving there,
Yeah.
and on one side of that shelving is a little cabinet, wooden cabinet-like thing that's got a lot of records. Oh, not paper records. but
Like
recordings.
45s?
Yes.
Oh, even before then, we're pretty sure some of those records date back to the 1800s when they first came out with the
Because they're big.
the original, you know.
That's wild.
There's a bunch
I wonder
of
if y'all
them.
tried to listen to them. You'd have to get them like mastered or something onto a CD or something like that.
But we haven't really explored that because we've been doing so much other stuff.
I mean, the volunteers, trust me, I know that y'all appreciate all the volunteers, but there's really a core of people that make this happen, you know, and the board is a lot of it, so, you know, Y'all need a little bit more props than all the other volunteers, just saying.
I don't think we give ourselves as a board enough credit
No.
sometimes because we're so used to it at this point.
Yeah, and then like Mildred's on so many boards. It's like you need people like that in the community to keep things going, you know?
Well, Nick and I are the only two that live in town now.
Right.
Terry used to and everything, but we're the closest to the
To here.
theater.
Yeah.
Well, Jonathan, who just recently
Oh,
joined
yeah.
our board,
Oh, I like
now he's
Jonathan.
in town
He's
as
cool.
well.
He's a real cool guy.
I like him. I met him whenever I was volunteering because he helped with the food, and he usually comes in for that. Because doesn't he do catering too?
Yeah,
Something like
he
that.
does that, and he's really helpful.
Yeah, he seems like a really good guy. I've only met him a couple times, but he has a good energy for sure.
Yeah.
So what about you, Nick?
100%.
Do you have a high from the palace?
After 25 years, I would say it's just the palace itself, like just finding this place and becoming a part of it. It was a big part, and Pat Smith and Joy Hayes played a big part in helping me come out of my shell. So I was very shy, very reserved, very not outgoing at all.
On stage? I can't
You
imagine
would
that.
have never thought that I was a theater kid or became a theater person.
You work
but
the
a-
crowd so well. I
But a
mean.
big part of it was this. And doing that part of it too, the improvisations, the working the crowd, the knowing my timing on stage and the comedic timing and stuff, all of that. Huge thank you to Joy Hayes and her husband Chick Hayes, who both have, passed on. But were a big part of my life and my development here
Pushing you
in
to
that.
do stuff.
Yeah, they saw it in me and I didn't, but every time we did a show together, they pushed me to do it. And well, yeah. So
pretty
that was a
awesome.
big part of it, were them in this theater. So that's my high, just the building in general. I would say finding the connection between myself being born 2 doors down at the hospital and then the theater opening 2 months before I was born in the same year, that was pretty cool to
Like the-
discover that.
The organ with the place and
With
you
the,
with the
yeah,
yeah.
it all kind of ties, it all ties itself together in that that overall theme of, I don't know what you'd call it, fate, spirituality, like whatever.
Kismet,
Destiny,
right?
kismet, whatever you want to call it. And I haven't really had any lows here, I mean, obviously there's been times where we've been down. Either event didn't turn out the way we wanted it to, or we've had to adjust because of COVID. Well, maybe COVID. We'll go with COVID. When we had to shut our doors because of the coronavirus, because we went almost 2 solid years without having any event down here, so we struggled. And the reason why we didn't shut down is because community outreach and people just donating to keep us open.
The plays I did here were after COVID, so I didn't know the pre-COVID, but yeah, I can imagine that would be hard to even keep the lights on. I mean, the lights, the air, this is a huge building.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to keep it running, And I know you guys are always wanting to restore, that's what I love. Is you're not just trying to okay, this needs to be fixed, let's just put whatever. It's like, no, they want to more try to restore the area, and you have to respect that, especially with a 100-year-old or almost 100-year-old building. Ooh, I just saw this weird ladder over there, and it kind of gave me the weird vibe.
heebie-jeebies?
Yeah, it's
So,
the first time I saw that.
the ladder
When you
you're
look
looking
around, you
at-
always see something different.
The ladder you're looking at is backstage, and there's actually probably 1 or 2 of them back there. There's a wooden one on the side wall, and then there's the one, I believe it's a metal one, on the back wall.
Look how small that
And-
hole is going up there.
Yeah, those lead up to the catwalks upstairs, and there have only been
Oh.
2 people that have gone up to those catwalks since the theater, 3 people since the theater reopened, and that would be Chick Hayes, Robert Brown, and myself.
And not me ever.
I can
Oh,
tell you, I can tell you that climbing up those ladders is a chore.
It looks
And-
scary. They're really tiny and narrow.
But we have to go up there to raise the screen and to raise another backdrop that's backstage.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so with a 100-year-old theater comes those little quirks
You're
as
like, I
well.
hope this step doesn't break
Yeah.
right now.
We've been able to modernize some things, but other things you just
Oh,
can't
yeah.
modernize without hurting the integrity of the structure and stuff like that. So
I agree with that, especially like the stairs to the apartment. In the apartments, like there's not a whole lot you can do while keeping that original.
There's so many Art Deco touches to this building. The tile in the bathrooms, the light fixtures on the, you know, lining the seating area. It's
So Pat, you
so
came
cool.
here for a play, my first play, you came, and you're here now. Or, I mean, of course you're seeing a different view of it, you know?
Definitely.
Is it surprising in a different way than whenever you came here for a play?
It is. I was totally swept away by this building. I have a soft spot for old buildings and character and personality.
Something with a little dust on it, you like it.
I love it, yes. So I was blown away by the building the first time I walked in the doors. But yes, I'm really enjoying today and the ability to kind of, you know, the lights are on, you can see everything.
Behind
you
the
can-
curtain.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm really fascinated by the, what would you call the plaster on the walls? That you can see the original plaster on pieces of this wall.
That's basically what it is. I mean, a lot of times what they do is they plastered over, and y'all can speak to this, but I know in Marlin, it was plastered over brick like that a lot, and that's just, it's broken off, and that's the stuff that's really sticking. Like, I've been remodeling an old building up on Peacock Street, 1912 Coffee, we'll give them a shout out again. And they have an apartment upstairs that they're going to be Airbnb-ing. If anybody wants to rent it, whenever they come for a play, it'll be available. But they have plaster like that on their walls, brick, or in between they have those wood slats, you know?
Oh.
So theirs isn't even as solid as this. But yeah, I can imagine throughout the years it just started breaking off, and this stuff is just the thing that like really stuck.
Yeah, going back a little bit in the history, after the Chatnus family donated it to the Presbyterian Church, that's when it started to crumble off the walls. It was during that time frame, and after the reopening, they just said, you know what? We like the brick, we like the exposure. They let everything else fall. They took another big chunk of it off, and what you see remaining is just simply what they couldn't get to.
So did they just took a hammer, because I mean really you could hit it and it will just go.
Yeah, of course that was before my time when they did all that reconstruction of
Okay.
it, but I couldn't tell you how they got it off the wall. I remember Pat and Howard Lee and Chick Hayes talking about it a lot. But yeah, they let it fall and they let it come off. And
One thing people probably don't realize and don't think about, the ceiling is really huge in here.
Mhm.
So even to change a light bulb in here is a project.
Yeah, how tall are these ceilings?
This takes
I
a
mean,
lift.
that-
This takes a lift to change the
Yeah,
light bulb.
so
And
we
these
have
light
to-
fixtures look, if not original, pretty close.
I think they're older, they're not original, but maybe, I would be surprised if they are, but
so those chandeliers are original.
wow, that is surprising.
Yeah. Now the electrical work inside of them has
Yeah.
been upgraded, but the chandeliers themselves are
Y'all need to
original.
buy only LED, oh, that's a regular bulb, that's why, right?
Yeah.
I was about to say, y'all need to buy only LED light bulbs so it lasts 10 to 20 years.
Yeah, the last time we had them replaced was probably about 5 years ago.
I know we changed
And
a couple, I was here by that guy,
It was Rutherford,
Rusty.
the electrician.
Rusty came.
Rusty,
He
okay.
brought a, we tried to get the fire department. Yeah, he owns that building on Ward Street that burnt. He owns the computer factory.
Oh, yeah.
We tried to get the fire department, and the fire department used to come out here and help change light bulbs.
Mhm.
Well, with insurance and all this other BS that goes on, and the city, now they cannot come out and help change light bulbs here. But there's a guy that owns businesses here in Marlin who has lifts, and him and a helper came out and changed it, and if you let him know, he can probably come out and change that one too. But, so there's people like that in the community that he's not a volunteer all the time, but he came out and volunteered, and it is a huge help because it's like you're not going to have a ladder to go up there, you know.
Oh, I don't, where would you buy that ladder?
He brought his lift in and
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it takes a lot of people, and certain people aren't volunteering all the time, but the things that they do matter, and it does help out. So, I mean, I think a place like this is really important in a community that's filled, or a time that is nothing but electronics, you know? And we're here. People come here and have a dinner theater. They bring their friends and family, come by themselves, whatever. They laugh, and it's a good time. And they're supporting the local arts, you know, which is withering away in so many communities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, can we get to some weirdness, I guess, like the hearsays about?
I am very
The palace-
interested in the speculation
Yes.
of certain topics.
So, Pat, what did you kind of want to talk to them about first? What's your
Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah. So, first off, can you tell us about, like, there's people that are listening that might not have ever heard of Bonnie and Clyde, surprisingly, but it's so. Do you know a little
So,
story about them, a little
um,
tidbit?
Clyde was just bad news in jail. Bonnie was young and cute. I believe they were both from the Dallas area. Somehow or other, they ended up madly in love with one another and running around large swaths of Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, robbing banks and various.
But almost a Robin Hood type from what I've heard, because the first time I heard about them being like kind of correlated with the palace is they possibly stayed at the apartment that was above the cafe, and I heard that Bonnie and Clyde, the police or the rangers always knew they were in town if the woman that ran the cafe had new jewelry, because she loved jewelry. So they would trade her jewelry for silence.
For the room and the board and the silence, like
Yeah,
you said.
basically. So that's kind of, the rangers started gauging it to know, like, when they were in town and whatnot. And I heard the lady had a lot of jewelry.
So
Like,
this
she
place
loved it.
completely fits their MO. Back road, relatively small town.
Easy to get around.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good approximation to Highway 6.
Now, I also did read, I looked this up online and saw that they stayed apparently at, this is what it said online, that they
Grain of
did
salt.
stay there, yeah, that they did stay there at the apartment, but they also stayed at the Allen house, which we talked about the Allens in the bridge episode. Dr. Allen was on the bridge whenever it collapsed, that's how he died, and his wife was actually not on the bridge.
Yeah, we did. We have verified that now.
Yeah, who kept the Allen house going and rented rooms out, so she would have rented them too. And I wonder, and this is just my TK brain going, I wonder if they rented from her, like on the books, because she seems kind of squarish, not like in a bad way, but like she was
Right, proper.
not to be bought,
right.
kind of like.
Yeah.
So maybe early on, in my mind, is when they rented from her until they were more well known, and then it's like,
Oh,
okay,
and then-
now we got to
yeah.
go under the radar.
Yeah.
This is one of our stops. But
We need to
gotta
find
be-
somebody we can buy silence with jewelry.
Exactly, totally. I mean, it's interesting. I know, like, I've talked to Rob before, and they had thought about maybe doing, like, a memorial up top, but not necessarily for Bonnie and Clyde, for the Rangers, like, to give respect and memorialize the Rangers that caught them. Which actually, they were killed, I think it was, like, May of 1934.
Oh.
And it was in
okay,
Louisiana. It was in Louisiana that they got killed, but they were from the Dallas area.
And it was, I actually drank my first beer sitting on Bonnie's grave.
Whoa, ever in life?
Ever in life.
Where?
yes.
Where are they buried? In Dallas?
They're buried separately.
Oh.
Apparently the family they'd had enough of that,
Yeah.
of all their shenanigans.
Yeah.
And Bonnie is buried off of, I want to say Sylvan, which is what I-30 turns into, where there's a big intersection there in Dallas, Sylvan and I-30. It's really nothing special. It's kind of just an old,
Is her name on the grave?
her name is on the grave.
I'm surprised about that.
Kind of an old afterthought cemetery behind a chain link fence. I mean, it's nothing.
Yeah, but really,
nothing
it's
spectacular.
something. Compared to what criminals get, people that die on death row or in prison, they only have their number, like their prisoner number.
Right.
At least she has her name on
I
her
think
grave.
her mother, I think Bonnie's mother was the one that sort of made that happen.
And nowadays, I don't think that would happen, and also because so many people would flood it. But like I said, I think that we needed to say, like, kind of who they are, because there are younger people that have no freaking clue whenever we say Bonnie and Clyde.
should definitely look them up. They were almost the Kardashians of their era.
Yeah, I mean, people loved them.
And very
they were
stylish.
killers. I mean,
and they were incredibly good-looking young people who dressed very well, and you know, they were cool.
yeah,
And
cool killers.
Cool killers.
But is there? So I also heard another thing about possibly a lady may have been murdered up in the apartments. That is totally hearsay. I don't know details. It would have been before the palace reopened. We're talking like like after Bonnie and Clyde, so maybe in the 40s. This lady was murdered up there, which would have been weird for a lady to be living by herself in an apartment.
That would
So
be
who
odd during
knows?
that era.
Who knows if that's true or not? I do know that people have met the lady that owned the cafe. She was a character. I cannot think of her name right now. Total brain fart. But I'll post her name. Do you know the lady that owned the cafe?
So I know a little bit, and I know that the cafe was not a part of the theater during its initial run. Like as I said before, it didn't become a part of us until after the remodel, the reopening in the 80s and the remodeling in the 90s. But in those days, it was just the cafe, the Palace Cafe, and the owner's nickname was Diamond Lil. And so the person that lived up there was Diamond Lil. And her name, I believe, was Ann or Anna. I'll have to check on that for you. I do have, I do know somebody that's still living today that was a relative of hers. So I'll have to reach back out to her and talk to her again about the names and everything. But it was them that lived up there. So the supposed murdered woman would have had to happen sometime after the 50s or the 60s, because she lived up there with her family during the time of the theater and the cafe running.
It is a
I
small place.
believe it was her and her husband, and maybe I think they had a young son.
Okay. So it is
if I
a
remember
two-bedroom
correctly.
with like
It
a
is a
little
two-bedroom,
bathroom.
right.
Yeah.
Well, it's a two-room.
Yeah, two rooms.
It's a two-room.
Yeah, we won't say bedroom.
A two-room
It's
with
cinder
a small.
block. It's a
yeah.
cinder block apartment on a roof, you know. And there's a bathroom area, which is a creepy ass bathroom area. Yeah, between the rooms.
Yeah.
But it's very creepy up there.
But
I love creepy.
The hallway
All
walking up,
Kid
the
has to
stairs,
say to me is, it's creepy.
I
I'm like,
know.
I want to go.
the stairs going up to it is even creepy. Like as soon as you go through that gate, you're like, oh, what is this? This is weird. But it's
Yeah.
a different feeling than going in the basement. Like the basement almost freezes me in a way. Do you know what I mean?
Now
Where
I
I'm-
have to go to the
where I'm like,
basement.
I just don't feel like I'm moving, but I'm like, I just don't feel comfortable. That kind of feeling. And in the apartments, I didn't feel that way. It's just like creepy, like just a creepy vibe.
Y'all know I think I'm impervious to all
Yeah,
that, right?
yeah,
So
totally.
just, I have to go just test myself.
yeah, absolutely.
We will post some video, like we talked about before, and pictures of the palace.
And watch TK try to scare the shit out
No,
of me.
I'm not going to. I'm just going to let it be what it is. But the urge will be there. I will want to. I do have to also bring up, you know, Mildred and you work here a lot, and I know that y'all have had some times where maybe, you know, you've been freaked out by things.
Yeah.
Were you and Rob here, or Terry Glover and you were here, and you maybe heard Mildred? Something like that?
Yeah, I can talk about that a little bit. So, Terry and Mildred and I were down here one day working on a couch. We were reupholstering a couch for part of a set for a play, and Mildred stepped out. At the time, she was running a facility where she assisted in the care of veterans. And so she had to run out to go cook them. I believe it was their lunchtime, right? You had to go cook them lunch. You had to go take them some food.
Just another one of the amazing things that Mildred does or did.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, so she ran out to take care of their lunch, and Terry and I stayed, and we were kind of back here behind the curtain was partially closed, and we were back here doing the couch, and Terry stepped off stage to go get something, I believe in the back area here where the construction room is, and I was still on stage, and we were, you know, I was tacking in a few tacks on the couch.
Mildred left the building.
Mildred's
already.
gone from the building. She is nowhere inside. And both of us simultaneously heard Mildred just let out this sigh and go, hello, and it was Mildred's voice. So I didn't say anything initially, and then Terry peeks her head out from the side of the stage over here, from the little curtain area, and she goes, "Nick?" I go, "What? Did you hear that?" And I was like, "Okay, good, so you heard it too." So we both look at each other, and we look out, and Mildred's not out here, so I walk down the front side of the stage here, and Terry comes out the side of the stage, and we go out, and we're looking around the lobby, and she's like, "Mildred, Mildred," and no answer. So I said, let's look outside and see if we see her van. So we open the front door, we look outside, Mildred's van is not there. So we come back inside, and we're looking at each other, and I was like, that was Mildred's voice. And she goes, yeah, it was. And Terry's a pretty skeptical person too.
I believe that, yeah.
And she has never experienced anything here up until that time. But we came back upstage, and we're sitting here, and we're talking about it, and then here comes Mildred walking back in the front door and through the lobby, and
Terry begins to yell.
yeah, and like, "Hey, were you gone? Did you come back in?" She's like, "No, I've been gone the whole
can't
time."
understand it. She's like, "This
Yeah.
didn't happen." Like,
And we explained to Mildred what happened, and so that was Terry's. That was one of my experiences, and that was Terry's first experience.
sorry guys, but I would have freaked out.
Well, the
That would freak me out.
first few experiences I had here when I was younger, I did. But I got so used to it over time, and then I started to realize that this is a theater. So
You're
a
gonna-
lot of the energy and a lot of the potential possible, I call them residents at this point, but a lot of the potential possible spirits that are here were just like us. They were performers, they were set designers, they were directors, they were musicians.
So they probably want
They
to
were
play a
lighting
prank on you or
people.
something.
They were-
This was
Yeah.
their happy
Mildred's
place,
voice is
right?
pretty good.
Yeah,
What
they
did you
were-
say, Pat?
It was their happy place.
Yeah.
And if you go back in the history of any theater anywhere, pretty much any theater in history is supposedly haunted, right? And that's why theaters keep this thing called a ghost light on at night, and we have ours off to the side of the stage over here. That one little light bulb over here, that stays on all the time.
They're just providing ambiance for the
Just
spirit.
providing ambiance. Some people going back in history believe it's to keep spirits away, and others believe it's to invite spirits in. And let
Have
them
y'all
know
ever
it's-
burnt sage here, or is
Mhm.
that something you're like, I wouldn't want to do that because I wouldn't want to kill whatever
You don't
energy's
want to
here?
upset all the.
I'm just curious.
No,
you know?
we've
He's into that.
yeah, we've burnt sage here before.
Okay.
You know, we've done events, and we have another one coming up where we'll do some more spiritual and some more like just kind of new age type stuff, like tarot readings. So we have a tarot reader coming up within the next few months that is going to be here, and we had one before, and she would do sage and stuff like that.
What about Reiki? Are you going to do that here?
I don't know. That one might be a little too far out of our
right
comfort range and our
Okay.
knowledge range. But sage is something that's been done for centuries upon centuries with
Oh, definitely. I do it
multiple
all
and
the time.
different cultures. So yeah, we're okay with that. Saging and burning a candle is essentially along the same lines of
Yeah.
yeah, we've had sagings here before, and one of the things that saging is supposed to do is rumored to do is to clear bad negative energy and spirits out. But these guys don't go anywhere.
Yeah,
They keep
you're
hanging
just
around.
cleansing the bad
Yeah.
stuff out, keeping the good.
Yeah, and
I have
it's-
worked on some old buildings, like I said. I had some energy that I felt here. I've only felt like something like that maybe 4 times in my life. One time was in Austin when I was working on an old house. I had my foot on the door, and like somebody tried to open the door, and a giggle was there. And then I was like, just a second, because I was finishing painting. And then I went out to tell the owner that was sitting at her desk 3 rooms over, and my helper that was on a ladder in the room. I was like, did y'all need to use the bathroom? The bathroom's open. And they were like, we didn't come back there. So I had that. I also feel an old man watching me mow sometimes, not in a
You
creepy
talk
way.
about him a lot. I
Yeah.
think you kind of like him.
I do. He doesn't bother me anymore. But
You're my buddy.
when I first moved to the country, I'm like, why do I feel like this old man is watching me from a corner that there's nothing there? There's no house. It's just field. It
I
would be
think he
different if it was,
appreciates your upkeep.
maybe it was different if it was like coming from my neighbor's area, but it was just like in the corner of the land, like nothing's there. And then the energy I feel back here in the shop, sorry, I'm pointing to where the wood shop is here,
Mhm.
and then that thing that got debunked you know. But I also, above the 1912 Coffee, I've been working in that building on the second floor, and there's a third floor, and sometimes I would hear like footsteps, and there's definitely nobody up there. I mean, it's not like condemned, but it is definitely not something that, and they would have to walk past me to go up there, so I would know somebody was up there, basically.
Yeah.
And that's very light, and I did talk to the owner, and she said, oh yeah, we've heard stuff and whatnot, so that has some weird energy, but I think that most of the energy I've felt has been good.
Yeah.
Like, it's not negative necessarily.
And just to give you listeners a general idea, 1912 Coffee and Bites that she's talking about, which is in the, I believe it's called the Peacock Building,
Yep.
is actually right down the street
And
from the theater.
our sponsor have been
Yes,
replacing.
absolutely. And all you have to do is walk out the side door of the theater and down the alley past the Falls Hotel, and there's the Winter Street Building. There's the Peacock Building, 1912 Coffee and Bites. So again, same block, same sources of activity that, you know, people feel around here. And, you know, just a little insight, since we do have Paranormal University coming up fairly soon, and those tickets will go live pretty quick here, and they sell out quick. So once you see them, nab them if you can. Some of the things that have happened that others have experienced here. We've had several cast members, several audience members, people that have helped us come and work on set and stage that have seen shadow movement or an unknown figure moving out around the lobby or upstairs in the balcony. We believe that's Casey, JC's right-hand man. He still
cigarette
keeps an eye on things. The cigarette smoker.
That's how I plan to haunt y'all.
Oh,
So just
yeah.
be aware that
Anytime I smell cigarette smoke, I'll think it's like, oh, Pat's come to visit me.
Down in TK's creepy basement that she doesn't like.
Oh, that is a thing too, because I do have a feeling there. And maybe I just have an issue with basements. I don't know. But it was weird. It's like, okay, Rob, I'm going to get out of here.
I have
You know?
to basement.
And I didn't
Yeah.
even want to take the stairs by myself. I'm just like, okay, Rob, let's go.
Well, down in the basement, we've had one of our investigators. Her name is Dr. Cindy Little, and she runs paranormal classes at Baylor University in Waco. She's worked with parapsychologists, has done multiple scientific research, the whole nine. We enlist legitimate, authentic people here when we do these things, and out of all the years, the 2 decades plus that she's done paranormal investigating, she has never seen anything until she came to the Palace Theater. And in the basement, one night during an investigation, she says that she saw a male figure come out of the corner of the basement and walk past everybody and walk up the stairs. And it's the one and only time she has ever claimed to have seen anything during, and she's been all over in her research and her investigations.
Let's go find him.
We've got audio clips, what's called an EVP, or an electronic voice phenomena, recordings of different voices that didn't belong to anybody that was in the building at the time.
Can you make out words, or is it just noise?
Sometimes you can, sometimes it's just noise, but one of our investigators, again, another solid investigator that's been doing it for probably 15 plus years, she'll be on the crew the next paranormal go around. Her name is Janet Roller, former school teacher, now retired, and does this for fun. Like, she'll go literally to any haunted place in anywhere and stay there by herself and investigate. She's going to come stay at the theater one night solo and see what she gets overnight. But
I wonder if more will come to her being solo, and I only say that because, like, maybe they're shy.
Maybe so.
You know, y'all were
Yeah.
here, or you and Terry were here, and that's when whatever it was decided to, like, use Mildred's voice, which is comforting to you and Terry.
Yeah.
And, you know, so it's just interesting to see what will happen with somebody by themselves here, and I assume she's going to use all the same equipment and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I couldn't do that.
She's our audio person. She loves to use headphones and recorders and upgraded digital equipment that allows her to capture anything that is not a basic sound or a basic voice or anything like that. And investigating the apartments one night solo. She heard through her headset, and we listened to the recording later, but it was a light, soft, we presume female voice that came across and said, "I died,"
So that could have been a chick.
on her audio recording, and we couldn't explain it. I mean, there was nobody in the alleyway, there was nobody passing by, there was nobody up there with her, and you could tell it wasn't her voice, or it wasn't a voice that came off an audio phone or anything like that.
But it's just in her playback, right? Or, you know?
Just in the playback on a voice recorder, you just
Yeah,
hear these words.
I wondered, like, if somebody was able to do that at the Falls Hotel, because 1912 has a great view of the hotel. I mean, of the rooms all the way to the backside. And some of those rooms, I'm like, oh my God, I hope I don't see somebody's head poke out. It will scare me. But I look all the time because it's an interesting place.
Yeah.
And there's so much history here, good and bad. You know, so yeah, that's such a trip. I do have to say that it's pretty remarkable that you guys really do try to do the paranormal with integrity and almost like try to debunk it before you accept it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. We want to do everything authentically as we can, okay? And that includes the paranormal stuff as well. That's why we only bring in the investigators that have credibility and that we trust. They will 100% tell you it's bullshit before they go into anything else.
Yeah.
They will work their asses off to debunk anything that they can before they say, okay, we can't explain it, it's paranormal. You know, and that's why we bring them back every single time, is because of that.
Authenticity.
Exact, authentic reason.
Yeah, I also have to say I forgot about this until we were just talking. Not that it's a bad vibe, but I do get like an interesting kind of excitement, and maybe it's because it's so many costumes or whatever, but the costume rooms have a lot of energy. Do you think so? The costume area, where you have all those costumes? Do you think it feels different in there?
No, it was the same all over.
You're here all the time, so it's like,
Yeah, because I've spent a lot of time back there.
oh yeah, I mean,
So we're comfortable at this point, but I believe the area that you're talking about is the old H&R Block building. The area back there. It's another recent. We acquired that building probably within the last 4 to 5 years, sometime, and then broke through the walls over there, and that's where we built our nice, beautiful, new, updated kitchen. But off to the side of that, in the main area where the office used to sit, the H&R office used to sit, is an area where we store props and costumes and
tons and tons of
and
costumes.
there is an area at the back where the former owner of the building, and some Marlin residents may know or be familiar with the name. His name was Allen, and he used to own the building, but he did, and this is verified, he did pass away in that back room of that building because he did have it set up as a small apartment for himself.
Was he like an eccentric guy? Do you know anything about him?
I don't know anything about him. None of us ever met him.
Okay.
Again, we acquired the building long after his passing and long after H&R shut its doors there. So we would have to do some research on that to get some information on that. But we do know for sure that he passed away in that building in the back. He died of a heart attack.
Do y'all go
That's
in
what
that
we know.
area for your
Yeah.
paranormal?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, you go everywhere.
Yeah, there's not a place that I know that we haven't been
Yeah.
multiple times.
So,
Yeah.
Mildred, I have to ask, do you have plans to haunt this place after you pass?
That's
Not
going
really.
to.
I really think you should. It sounds like wonderful fun.
That or the Allen House would be fun to hunt.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I've already told all the other board members, I'm like, if I die before y'all ain't getting rid of me. Like I'm here. I don't know that this place will
You
let
would
me
mess
go.
with people though, like
You and Casey
hardcore.
can fight over your preferred seating in the balcony.
Oh, that's what I was gonna ask. Okay, Casey,
Mhm.
like Casey Glover, Casey. Did she have an experience down below in the basement or something? Some hairs on her neck. Was it her? I feel like-
We've had multiple people
Or
that
the
felt like
stairs.
we've had multiple people that have felt like that in both spots.
Okay.
The stairs
Like
by
a
the
touch or-
balcony, downstairs, the basement, backstage. Yeah, we've had cast members, board members, people taking tours of the facility during Paranormal University have all felt like they've had somebody there with them that wasn't us, or have felt like somebody brushed their shoulder or touched the back of their neck, or something along those lines. So it's not just her, it's a number
lot
of
of people.
Yeah, and we never when we do these events, we never tell these stories before time.
Oh, yeah.
We like to see if people
Figure it out.
figure it out for
they'll plant the
themselves.
seed, right?
Right?
I can see that.
And to get some of the same feedback in some of the same areas from different people that didn't know the prior, it's been pretty interesting. It's been
That's
pretty
more
cool.
legit for sure, because you're right, and it is like planting a seed, like you're almost anticipating it.
Right.
So it's like, is this going to happen here or whatever? So you could take something small and turn it, because we're humans, and
Right.
turn it into something bigger.
Yeah. But before we go today, if y'all don't mind, I would like to go over our list of events that we have coming up and dates.
Absolutely.
Please do.
You can find all of these at Palace Theater on Facebook, Palace Theater Marlin on Facebook, or palacetheatermarlin.com. The first is our upcoming dinner theater in May. That's going to be Money to Burn. It's my directorial debut.
Yay! Nick!
And the dates for that performance are going to be May 3rd, 4th, 10th, and 11th. So Cinco de Mayo weekend and Mother's Day weekend.
BYOB.
BYOB, come on out.
Amazing.
Enjoy a great meal, enjoy a great performance. It's I've set the show back in the 1960s, so I have an all 60s playlist built. We're going with an all 60s design on the cast and cast outfits and set and everything. So come on out and enjoy a flashback to the 60s
And do you all
and a
still
great
need
meal on
volunteers
top.
for that time frame? Or are you
Oh,
all
we'll
looking for-
always take volunteers.
Okay.
Anybody that wants to come out and help us serve, or help us work the kitchen, do dishes, help us at the front door seating, anything y'all want to come and help us
So how
do.
should they contact you if they want to volunteer? Is it best to go on Facebook and send a direct message, perhaps? Or
They can reach out through Messenger on
Okay.
Facebook. Robert Brown, one of our board members, has direct access to those messages, so
Okay.
he'll either pass that information along to Mildred or I, or he'll take care of it himself. But any of the Facebook Messenger or
Okay.
email through the Palace Theater website. Some other events that we have coming up in the month of June. So tickets for the theater are live now. You can go on and link through and get tickets for the dinner theater now.
You have to have reservations.
And you have to have reservations for dinner theater. It's not a walk-up event. We have to know who's coming so we can cook dinner for you.
Yeah.
So
Everything's cooked here, guys, in-house. And
in-house, everything. But the two events we have coming up in June, we don't have tickets for those live yet, but we will soon, so keep on the lookout. Go ahead and mark your calendars for these dates. We're going to have a night of tarot on June 22nd, and that's going to feature my dear friend Cassie of the Jaunty Jungle, and you can reach her on Facebook or Instagram at the Jaunty Jungle. She does tarot readings, Reiki, spiritual work along those avenues. And then we have Paranormal University on June 29th with our expert investigators, Georgina Holzmeyer, Janet Roller, Allison Robles, and Dr. Cindy Little. So keep your eyes peeled for those events as well. Go ahead and mark those dates on your calendars. And before we go, do we have any more questions?
I do have to ask, Pat, are you thinking about getting tickets for the next Paranormal? Ooh.
That might be interesting, TK.
Yeah, totally.
Are you in? Are we going to do that?
Maybe. Depends on my school schedule, but yeah, I might be open to that.
I'm definitely down for dinner theater in May.
I do want to say that you guys do the dinner theater twice a year. So
Yes.
let's go ahead and tell them the time frame around when you do the second one.
Will be
so
in
we can kinda
October.
Plan.
And
Okay.
I don't have the dates on the top of my head right now, but the one in October will be the second. It'll be the middle 2 weekends in October.
Okay. And those are still, you do 2 shows, and then the next weekend you do 2 shows. So
Correct. Yeah,
make
we
sure
do.
to keep your eye out for that. And you can follow on Facebook, go to their website, message any of us. We can give you info or direct you where to go to help support the Palace. Yeah. Mildred, I really appreciate you coming out. It was awesome to have you as our first guest, and you just know a lot, you know? And you contribute so much to the Palace Theater and other organizations within Marlin. and it's much appreciated.
Well, thank you. I did not know that I was going to be, I was just coming as an observer.
Surprise!
I know.
Thank you.
You've been such a great sport.
You have been. You've been great.
Because I thought Rob was going to be here, other people, but I was just coming down to listen.
It was perfect. I'm so glad that you're here and able to contribute. It's been great.
You're a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, and Nick, you did a great job. You know so much history about the Palace Theater, and you're so involved, and it's just nice to have somebody, like we usually tell stories where we're the outside part, right? It's not about us, really. It's like, okay, what we can research, what we can find on the street, but this is like firsthand.
Right.
And so that's really awesome.
Yep, and stay tuned for more in the future. I'm sure we'll do more recordings from here.
Yeah, basically
Going on
we're going to
live.
wrap up the season of our first season of As the Brazos Falls. We are going to do some casting back episodes. We're probably going to do one on Roydale Green. We're probably going to revisit the Marlin Family Massacre because we had some locals that reached out and said,
Yes,
hey,
I
we're
am
part of the family.
very excited for
we
that.
Would, yeah, we would love to like just kind of give some input, so I think that'll be cool. And we're calling those little episodes Casting Back, where we look back at a previous episode. So we might do one on the Palace Theater. I'm sure some stuff will come up.
And I am almost finished with a great book about Kenneth Allen MacDuff and the investigation.
What book is that?
Oh, you had to ask me that on the
Of course I was
spot.
going
Thank
to.
you.
We'll have to do a Casting Back on that.
We will, yes.
Yeah, well, I just want to say thank you guys for tuning in, and also we definitely appreciate the listeners, and we're slowly and steadily getting better.
We are getting better.
We are. So season 2, I feel like is going to be awesome because we've broken the ice, we've worked out some glitches, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see where we go.
So if you have requests, now is the time to log them.
Yeah, please get with me too if you have input. Like I know our Casting Back where we had locals like recordings and we played them, it'll be better next time. We also might have more guests like Mildred. We might have other people come in. So please stay tuned and we really do appreciate you guys. On that note,
Bye, y'all.